of the famous rabbis of yesteryear. Now, the Hebrew date is Zayin Elul, marks the Hilula of a famous Ethiopian rabbi. His name was Rabbi Kes Malka Azariah. Zechet Tzadik Lebracha, very, very famous rabbi in his time. I believe he was born in 1926. He passed away on the 4th of September, I believe, reported over in 2011. He was a famous rabbi. Now, we've spoken about maybe around 7 or 8 Ethiopian rabbis already inside this series, so it's always a privilege to speak about the great rabbis. And he was, let's just say, I'll state what it is over here. Aksim, Lika, Kehaanet, Shel, Kehilת, ביתא, ישראל, במדינת Israel. He was, I think, the spiritual leader of the Bietא Israel community in Israel, respectively of his time. He was a famous rabbi, and let's explore a few of the highlights of the great rabbi's life. So he was born in a village, I think, called Teda, if I'm not mistaken, which was, I think, around the area of Gondar in Ethiopia. That's where he actually came from originally. And so he was from that specific region, and I think also that you could attach other names to it. Very, very interesting. Okay, so I think he was a 9th child of another great rabbi. Well, I think he was a rabbi. Kes Azariah, yes. I think we mentioned him before on various occasions before inside this series. And so he was over there, and that's very, very interesting. And so he would, I think when he was 10 years of age, at that point in time, I think that was a period when there was a war going on between Italy and Ethiopia, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was between the year 1935 to 1936, respectively. And there was battles that took place. I think it was around the area of Teda. So his family would move on to another village over there. That will be the next port of call because of the issues, let's just say, the regional issues that was taking place. They would move to, I think, Uzva, if I'm not mistaken. And I think, that would be a place that they will be. Now, it's interesting. I think they would get married shortly afterwards at one stage in time while he was over there. I think his wife's name was Yehudit Aseres, if I'm not mistaken. And they were going to have 6 children. I think one of them is Kes Avihu Azariah, also, who I think is currently a chairman of a prestigious position. And that's very interesting. So very prominent positions for them. I'll say what it says over here. Ba'ozva nasal isha et Yehudit Aseres ve'olahem noldu shisha yildim. They would have 6 children. Echad mem hu Kes Avihu Azariah Hameshesh Kiro HaMoatzot HaArtzot Shel Kohanei Yehudit Ethiopia Israel. So he's got a very prominent position. His son also, I think, a governmental position or something connected to the government. And I think he would become the spiritual leader at that point in time of the Ethiopian community in that specific regions in of itself. So a very, very prominent position that was respectively. So what was his activities like in Ethiopia? He would do huge amounts, but tafkido charat al diglo et shimur hamesoret bekarev bnei hakilato. Important preservation of minhagim for the Ethiopian community. That was one of them important, let's just say, roles he would take place at that point in time. He tried to prevent assimilation, which might have been a worry at that point in time. He would go from village to village, it's reported over, where various different Jewish people were living, and would really, really mitzchazek the people and strengthen Judaism to a much better level. It's actually reported over he would establish many synagogues in the various different regions where he especially was going around over there. I think as many as 20 synagogues, if I'm not mistaken, through the central area. That was one of his jobs as a spiritual leader of the Ethiopian community, which is very, very much make a huge impact over there in those villages. I think there's villages such as Darga, Chachra, and Kober, Balsa, and I think obviously in Teda, respectively. I think initially he would not migrate to Israel. He would be, obviously that would have been an ideal dream, but I think it was at the start of the 1980s when some people were coming at that point in time. He didn't come to Eretz Israel like many of the Kehillah, many of the congregation would do. He wanted to stay in Ethiopia to prevent the assimilation that could potentially take place over there. I think, come what the year 1991 it was, eventually. I think at that point in time, many people would be moving again to Israel. So I think at that stage in time, I'll say what it says over here. I'll just quote over. Okay, I'll read the whole thing. But Chilat Shanot Shmonim. אם יוודע על מבצע משה, החליט לא לעלות ארצה להישאר עם בני קהילת שנותרו באתיופיה, על מנת למנוע את תבוללותם. He wants to prevent the assimilation that took place. בשנת 1991, במהלך מבצע שלמה, ולאחר שמרבית יהודי האזור החליטן לעלות לארץ, עלה גם הוא ויחד עם בני ביתו, השתכן באשקלון. So he's going to move to Ashkelon in 1991. Many of the community has gone, so that was an opportunity to actually moved over there at that point in time. בישראל המשיך לשמש ככס, כמנהג רוחני לבני קהילת ביתא ישראל, תוך שימש דגש על שימור המסורת העתיקה של קהילתו. So he'll become the spiritual leader over there, especially while in Ashkelon, of the better Israel community, the Ethiopian community, respectively, very, very prominent, a very responsible position also. He would be very involved in activities in Israel. Kes Malka Azariah Rabot Lakera Yehudi Ethiopia. He really tried to make the Ethiopian Jews have a good standing in Eretz Israel over there at that point in time, and recognition which they deserved at that point in time. He would speak to various different Rabbanim in Eretz Israel with key positions, let's just say, and he would community rabbis mostly to let's just say to make an establishment, especially of a national council of Ethiopian Jews, especially a rabbinate, which was very, very important, obviously, to the community at that point in time, where there will be religious activities, social projects, encouraging young people to acquire education. Obviously, he would try and focus on combating racism. That was another thing. And other various issues that might actually take place that might be difficulties in the Ethiopian communities. And he would try and help within regards to the thriving elements of the Ethiopian community, respectively. Now, it's reported over, actually, one of a massive achievement will be that he would ordain 15, I believe, people to spiritual roles, high spiritual roles, respectively, inside the Kehillah, which was obviously a very, very big boost for the community, let's just say. And he would really, these people would become community heads, especially in the areas of residence. His home was a place where many members of his community would come and visit him over there. They would come and visit and get inspired on a daily basis. Many people will come. It's reported over. And especially during holidays, especially in Yom Kippur and Pesach, many members of the community will come to Ashkelon or from all over the country to, I think, even stay at his home, participate in tefillot inside the prayers over there. I think there was a nearby synagogue he founded, and that was named actually after his father, Rabbi Kes Azariah, a synagogue. I think there was a public garden also commemorating his name. Now, he passed away, as we said before, back in the year 2011 on the 7th of Elul. I think he was about 85 years of age at the time he passed away, and many, many thousands would come to his funeral. I think he was buried in the Ashkelon cemetery. There was governmental people at that point in time that even came. I think most notably one of the members of the Israeli Knesset, Tzipora Malka Livni, or Sipi Livni, would also come to pay her respects to the great rabbi. I think she happened to be especially involved in politics for many, many years. She happened to have been part of the 18th Knesset, the 16th Knesset, if I'm not mistaken, a very, very significant Knesset. I'll just have to double check the years, but she had prominent roles, and I think roles also, if I'm not mistaken, especially in the media and in the actual, let's say, committee, the Knesset itself, inside the coalition. She had key roles, if I'm not mistaken. So she very much paid her respects to the great Chacham. So that also has to be pointed out. Now, it's interesting. So he passed away at that stage. And yes, so he was buried in Ashkelon. The great rabbi was. So let's explore a few more interesting informations within regards to the great rabbi, because obviously he was very, very prominent. I think it was all throughout, even when he was in Ethiopia at that point in time. He helped really mitchazek the Ethiopian community. For example, I think it was in 1977, before 1980s, which I mentioned before. I think he would help within regards to the path to Aliyah at that point in time. He would, which is very interesting. He would actually make sure that it would be a safe path to travel to get to Eretz Israel. He was not for, I think, people when they were making Aliyah to go via Sudan, for example, because obviously there was a dangerous to the road, and that could be potentially difficulties that could actually come. So he really looked at the wider picture of how to calculate what people should do respectively. What's the easiest way to end up coming to Eretz Israel? That's one of the things he was grappling with at that point in time. And he really did preserve the tradition of the Ethiopian communities. It's reported that he would bring a 500-year-old Torah scroll with him from Ethiopia to his synagogue, and very much was well liked, and conducted various weddings, burial ceremonies, and did very much importances within regards to rabbinic life cycle for the place. Now, I don't know if Torah teachings of his was recorded, but some of his children, Talmidim students and acquaintances, will actually quote important messages that maybe he had taught at one stage in time. And now I'm going to use the Hayumi website over here to actually relate over, let's just say, the important teachings that Rabbi Kes actually, encouraged over, respectively. So let's just explore some of that, just using the Hayumi website, because it gives some excellent breadth notes respectively. Okay, first one I want to touch on was what it says, Melamed la'asot suda gdola lekol ha'kehila b'motzei Yom Kippurim. The importance after Yom Kippur to do a feast with regards to a meal. Another teaching from him. Melamed shiresheret misirut sefer Torah medor ledor. The importance with regards to Sefer Torah for every generation. We spoke about the 500-year-old Sefer Torah he would actually bring, I believe, to Eretz Israel. Another teaching, Melamed shaya mistovev baraglav b'kol makom sheyesh Yehudim. The importance to go to places where there's a Jewish community. Another teaching, Melamed leseya b'matziat bait lemi sheyatza la'aretz ach chaza al ikvotav. Another teaching, Melamed lenatzel al petach l'shavivan ben hadatot lahakamat batei knesset. Another teaching, מלמד שהדעת שלנו היא לא נושא של הממשלה, מלמד שלא לדבר סרה במדינת ישראל, לא בהפגנות ובצעקות. One of these another important messages. And the final one, מלמד שלא חסר דבר שקיבל תורה ומאביו ונתן אותה לבנו. That's another important teaching over there, which I recommend everyone to look about. So he was a great rabbi of his time, and from the Ethiopian community made a huge impact, let's just say, respectively, which is very, very key, and something we've spoken about on various occasions before. What a great community the Ethiopian community is, and how lucky we are to have such a great community in Israel, and such many wonderful people also we have to also point out, so which is very interesting. So I believe he passed away, we're talking about back in 2011, that's 14 years ago from the time of recording. So if you happen to descend from any of the great rabbis over here that we're speaking about, please send me an email. I would love to hear more information on the great Chachamim. If anyone is interested in watching any of these videos, please share these videos also to other people. We are community. We love learning about the great rabbis of yesteryear, especially from the Ottoman countries, from North African countries, from Asian countries, as you see over here, also from Ethiopia. So it's always a privilege to speak about them. If you have any other ideas or feedback, I'd really appreciate it. And wishing you all well. Fantastic day. And remember, this is not just the only thing we do on this channel over here. We also will speak about the Parshat HaShavua. We do a special Daf Yomi series at the moment, which every single day I give a tidbit over within regards to some inspiration from the daily page of the Gemara, which I feel is very important, and it's a huge, let's just say, plus to actually do that. We also record with a great Jewish personality every single day, gives over some great wisdom for Am Yisrael. We always have the privilege of doing that, and so on and so forth. So friends, join this community, enjoy, and wishing you all a Shavuot Tov V'rach, and take care, and thanks for